Hey everyone, Spro Pro, Dean Rojas here. As you can see, I'm in a bit of heaven right now because of all the lily pads, all the duckweed, and we got a little bit of current on top of that. All the great things you would want in a recipe to catch a lot of bass. So we're gonna talk about how to break down an area when you're faced with so many pads and so much, floating debris, on how to find them, locate them, and then eventually catch them. So as you know, Spro, we make a lot of different variations of our frog. With our Bronzeye, our Poppin frog, we have our spit and shad, and we got our King Daddy. So we have a lot of different variations of frogs, and each one has a great purpose for the type of cover that you're gonna be fishing at. So for right now, we're gonna look at, we have a lot of lily pads here, and we have sparse, and then we have thick pads up towards the bank. And basically, whenever I'm competing, obviously time is the essence. You want to try and cover as much water as you can. As you look at this, it looks, like a huge area. You're like, where do I start? Well, first off, you want to try and make a cast and try and make a connection with the bass. That's the most important thing, is to let them show you or tell you exactly where you're at. And the best way to do that, basically, is just to go ahead and throw the frog out there. And whenever you're faced with areas like this, you don't necessarily have to work the frog through the pads. You can move it at a better pace by just actually throwing it out and winding it in real slow, okay? And what we're doing by that is we're trying to locate the fish. We're not, not necessarily trying to catch them. If we catch them, that's great. But we want the fish to strike it. We want it to show us exactly where it's at, what type of cover it's hanging on, and what part of the flat that it's on. And it's a simple way of covering a lot of water with basically not having to sit there and work the frog for minutes on end trying to get one to blow up. And if once we get one to blow up on it, well, now we found them. And that's where you slow down, you make multiple casts, multiple presentations, and work the frog in and around the pads or the grass and duckweed. But when they're like that, they're usually going to be grouped up. So if there's one there's probably two or three that are in the area. And you can't see it. There could be an underwater drain that goes through there, or there could be a little high spot, or there could be bluegill spawning in this little patch of pads right here. You never know, what you're coming over when you're fishing this type of structure, because you can't see what's inside. So you want the fish to let them tell you what they're doing. The other thing too, I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but you hear a lot of popping. And those are bluegill and sunfish that are popping underneath the pads, eating little worms and so forth that are just growing in and around the pads. So that tells you right there the bluegill are present and that there's bait in the area, which means bass. So they're gonna be in the area, and it's just a matter of making contact with them and trying to find where they're at. And we have perfect conditions right now. We have bright skies, a little bit of cloud cover. So the fish are gonna be in the shade. That's what they do, they sit in the shade. So basically you just wanna cover as much ground as you possibly can and cover, look at that, did you see that? The fish jumped out after the frog right there just by me winding it in. And so what I would do in that case now is to bring it in. We're gonna make another cast up there. And we're just gonna work it real slow in the area. Now, I don't know what's underneath there. There could be the way it looks, there's some limbs around there. There could be an underwater little log there. It could be, just sand bottom. I don't know what could be down there. But the fact that the fish told us that's, maybe they want a little bit faster going through the duckweed. But more importantly, we figured out that there's actually a bass in this area that's wanting to bite. So that's always a key. And so when that's the whole thing. And when you're covering a lot of water, is you want to be able to know, okay, there was one here, there was one there. Next thing you know, you have a pattern to what they're actually hanging on. Maybe they're not hanging on the outside stuff. They're more tucked in, right on the bank. So those are key things that I like to do. And the Bronzeye frog is a great search bait. It's a great way to figure out exactly where the fish are going to be located, to where you can really focus and catch the bass in the grass. But hey, I want to introduce our brand new color. It's our sunfish color. This is our Poppin Frog 60 with a 3/0 hook in it. It's one of our best sellers. The color is absolutely beautiful. I know probably the camera doesn't do it justice, but it is an absolute beautiful piece of hollow belly magic. So anyways, I want to talk to you about fishing sporadic vegetation with it. As you can see, we have lily pads in the background here, and underneath we have patches of milfoil, which is a great combination. Anytime you can have 2 or even 3 types of vegetation together, man, that's great. Not only that, in the background, if you can hear, but the bluegill are popping, and that's always a great sign, because as long as the bluegill are here, the bass are not far behind. The popping frog itself is going to make a lot of commotion, so it's going to make that popping noise that the bluegill are making in and around the pads. The key to the popping frog is you really don't want to throw it into the pads. Because of the cupped lip on it, it tends to want to sometimes grab the pads and then eventually get hung up in the pads. So you kind of want to skirt the outer edges of it. The great thing that we have going on for us right now is we have the pads, and then you have the duckweed on the outer rim of the pads. So you're able to work the popping frog in the duckweed and get the the right action, the commotion, but yet not to where you're going to be bearing up into the lily pads and getting the bait hung up. Now, the popping frog is really easy to use. It's probably the easiest bait that we have in the Spro lineup of hollow belly frogs and bait fish. The great thing about the popping frog, it's easy for a 5-year-old kid to throw, or a touring pro like myself. Whenever you can have a bait that fits such a broad spectrum of angling age, we built the bait for the masses. So you can go to your farm pond and fish with it. You can fish your local lake, you can fish your local team tournament, or you can be on the pro level. There is a lot of money at our level on the Spro Bronzeye popping frog. Now, this bait here has been around for a while, and it's something that I've always keep tied on no matter what. This one, the original 65 Bronzeye, are the 2 baits I keep tied on all the time, because I never know what I'm going to face, what conditions I'm going to be in. So whenever you're faced with different conditions like this, different types of vegetation, have both frogs tied in, and make sure you have the right bait for each situation. Be sure to like, tag, and share for your opportunity to win these great outfits at the great giveaway presented by all the incorporated sponsors.